Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. We wanted to note that this meeting is being broadcasted on NUSD's YouTube channel at the direction of the board. The broadcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. If you would like to make a public comment on an item on the agenda or not on the agenda, please see staff at the side of the table for a public comment card. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. The board met in closed session this evening. Trustee Alexander will report on those items.
Good evening, everyone. The board met in closed session on the following items: personnel matters, public employee performance evaluation, superintendent, information only, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, information only. And then 2 items regarding negotiations, collective bargaining, conference with labor negotiators, Joshua Braff, CFO, and Francesca Whitcomb, Executive Director, Human Resources, and Employees Organization, Novato, Federation of Teachers, information only. Conference with labor negotiators, Joshua Braff, CFO, and Francesca Whitcomb, Executive Director, Human Resources, and Employees Organization, California School Employees Association, CSCA, information only. Thank you.
Thank you. May I please have approval of tonight's agenda? Thank you, Trustee Jacobson. Thank you, Trustee Pickus. All those in favor? 7 yeas. Thank you. Next is our consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull anything from our consent agenda this evening? Seeing none, may I please have an approval to approve tonight's consent agenda? Thank you, Trustee Alexander. May I please have a second? Thank you, Trustee Jacobson. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, let's start with announcements. We'll start with Trustee Jacobson.
Hello, I had the pleasure of attending Sinaloa's promotion. It was lovely. There were some really good accommodations for the weather that took place there, so thank you to that community. And I had a couple community member meetings. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I had the pleasure of attending San Marin's graduation. It was a beautiful ceremony. I just wanted to, I think the last time we were at our table, we didn't have results on our Mr. G, and just wanted to extend appreciation to our community members who showed up. And obviously the impacts, there are a lot to talk about moving forward, but just wanted to send some appreciation to many of our community members who put effort toward that.
No announcements.
Sorry, I'm just a little bit off. Just had a lot of fun with year-end graduations and promotions and things, and I've been very much under the weather, so I'm going to hang out as long as I can, but in case I leave when someone's speaking, it's not because of what you have to say. It just means I'm kind of pooped out and going to go home.
Enjoyed the San Jose Middle School promotion ceremony. It was wonderful as always. Great group, good bunch of kids. It's always great to see the kids and their achievements, and a different group every year. It just makes me feel older every year, but anyway, it was great to see. And also I want to say thank you to everybody who supported Measure G with all their heart and soul. I know we took it really close, and it's very much appreciated. And once again, thank you.
Hello again. I was very, very fortunate to be able to attend the Nova Marin Oaks graduation. It was the first time I was able to attend that, and it was a lovely, lovely ceremony with just really the heart and soul of each individual student in the schools. So really appreciated that, and then also was very fortunate in all of the great weather and accomplishments to see students walking the stages at San Marin and Novato High. So appreciating just how the community came together for everyone. Thank you.
Good evening. I also attended a few graduations, Marin Oaks, Nova, San Marin and Novato High School. And it's always exciting to see where our kids end up going, whether it's college, entering the workforce, or taking a year off and exploring what the next steps are in their journey. I also want to thank the people that volunteer with Measure G, especially the committee that had been meeting since January and met every week. I also want to thank the volunteers that came out on the weekend, the teachers, and there's tough times ahead, and I feel like together we're going to work together to solve some challenges. Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to mention the people who are on the committee. It was a small but mighty, it was like kind of the central group to recognize and honor those who worked on the parcel tax committee. They were and are Jen Larson, Mike Jolly, Fran Rosoff, Leslie Benjamin, Tina McMillan, Tim McCarty, Joshua Braff, Derek Nell, Aaron Compton, and Diane Gasson. And many, many thanks to all the volunteers who helped with this campaign. And then additionally, I repeat all the great things about the graduations. Thank you to all the staff who put together those graduations and promotion ceremonies. They are a lot of work between the chairs and the tents and the waters and all the pieces that you put together. But just when I get to sit and take it all in, I just love it. And you all do such a fabulous job, and just very proud. And as of note, the high school ceremonies will be before noon next year. And we're hoping that that will help in case it's hot, like it was at San Marin this year, or extra hot. It was hot everywhere, but extra hot at San Marin. All right, thank you.
Next is a non-agenda public comment. We are so glad to have public comment on any item not on the agenda. 3 minutes are allowed for each commenter. However, we are not allowed to respond to these comments, nor are we able to speak about employees or student privacy situations. The board directs the appropriate staff member to respond to all commenters within 2 business days following our board meetings. First on my list is Tim Block.
My name's Tim Block. I am a teacher at San Marin High School in the STEM and STEAM program. And first of all, I wanted to say I was also on the G committee.
Yes, Tim Block.
Thank you. So with that, I want to make sure I thank each and every one of you because you're here, you're doing the hard work, and Dr. Smith also, and Josh, and Franny, and many, many others, because we may not always agree on stuff and where we want to go. I think our intent is to do what's best for our kids. With that, about 20 years ago, I had to make a choice. And that choice was, do I come work for Novato Unified, or do I go work somewhere else? And my wife had got a postdoc over at the Buck Institute, and she wanted to come up here. And I interviewed, and I gambled a little bit. I want to work here. I started pay, and 20 years later, here we are now. I just happened to do a little bit of math of the cost of living between that time and this time now compared to the COLA that I've gotten from the district, and there's some disparity there. It's about 17% where I get paid less. Now, that doesn't include the education I've had, and my years of experience are not included in that, but I make less money, 17% since that time. I'm not seeing the support from the district. I get a lot of thank yous. I get a lot of, you're an awesome teacher, and that's very, very good. That makes me feel wonderful. But when I want to go do something financially, buy a new set of tires for whatever vehicle I can't do it. I used to have things that I did in the past that I cannot do now. I just cannot afford it because it's not in the budget. Now, the district does wonderful things. They supported my daughter all the way through. She's a senior right now at UC Davis. She's doing a fellowship out at the UC Davis Marine Lab. And that was because we supported her. All you guys did that. It's awesome. But financially, it's not happening. Just in the last year, 3.5% inflation. So I'm going to lose what the district offered, 3.5%, because the offer is quite a bit less than that. So again, we're asking for you to challenge Josh when you go into closed session Now, I think Josh and I are going in the same direction, just not in lockstep. Huge amount of respect, but I disagree with some of the stuff Josh is going to present to you. He's being extremely conservative of where the district should be in the future. I disagree with how much conservatism Josh is putting into the future. So please challenge him when you're in closed session. Because you're going to have teachers that are going to have to make a choice like I did 20 years ago. Are they going to want to come to work here? Are they going to want to stay? Or do they go to Southern Marin and take their experience with them? So please make those hard decisions. Thank you.
Next is Becky Breen. And next is after her is Alyssa Pappas.
Hi, I'm a teacher at Olive. For years, teachers in this district have shown up and worked hard and done whatever it takes for students. We stay late, arrive early, spend our own money on classroom supplies, and give our time freely because we care deeply about the children and families we serve. But tonight I need to be honest about the growing concerns among educators in NUSD. District leadership often tells us that our voices matter, that we are asked to attend meetings, complete surveys, we share concerns year after year, we speak directly to district leadership, yet many teachers feel our feedback disappears into the void. We rarely see meaningful responses, meaningful changes, evidence that our concerns have been truly heard. Now we are being presented with a proposal of a 0% salary increase. At a time when inflation is almost 4%, district itself is receiving a COLA of approximately 2.87%. Asking teachers to accept a 0% raise is not simply disappointing, it's insulting. A 0% raise is a pay cut. It means teachers are expected to do more with less while the costs of housing, groceries, gas, insurance, and everyday necessities continue to rise. It sends a message that people who work directly with students every day are not a priority. Parents should understand what this means. Teachers have been quietly making up the difference for years. We buy supplies, we fund classrooms projects, we spend evenings and weekends planning, grading, communicating with families, and supporting students. We absorb the cost because we refuse to let the students go without. But there comes a point when it's no longer sustainable. If severe financial cuts are made, teachers will simply have fewer resources, less time, less ability to personally subsidize what the district does not provide. The impact will eventually reach students because there is only so much an educator can continue to absorb. If cuts must occur, they should be made as far away from the student as possible. The classroom should be protected first. The people who work directly with children every day should be protected first. That means beginning with district office expenditures and administrative leadership before placing additional burdens on the classrooms. Every teacher in this district is dedicated to the students and committed to the profession. We are not asked for special treatment. We're asking for the same consideration and respect, and district leadership extends to itself. Many leadership contracts include guaranteed annual increases, while the educators doing the daily work of teaching children are being offered nothing. Parents deserve to know that teachers are fighting not only for themselves, but for the future of our classrooms. The district that values students must value the educators who serve them. I urge the board to listen, not just hear us, but truly listen. Show teachers that their dedication matters, show families that classrooms remain a priority, and show this community that people entrusted with the educating of the children are worthy of respect, support, and fair compensation. Thank you.
Next is Howard Gersh.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Pappas. I wanted to come talk about cost of living. I am a teacher at Olive. I have a student at Sinaloa coming in and one at Novato High. So I'm speaking to you as someone that is in every sense, and I wanted to kind of represent that subset of us. Every teacher has costs, of course. Those of us that are in here, we understand the budget. We know that money is coming, there's restrictions from the state that come to the district, that come to us as parents. It ends up with our children and the NUSD students, right? There's nowhere left for it to go, right? Your students, our students deserve teachers and parents that have their needs met. And every year it's becoming harder and harder and harder to do that. Our costs are not going down. It is my high schooler that wants to drive, that's gonna wanna apply to colleges. It is your schools that are gonna come to us asking us to buy a brick for Novato High, to fix the pavement, right? To pay for the auctions, to do all of those things. And it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for any of us, and it's hurting our students, and our children deserve better, my coworkers deserve better, and my students' teachers deserve better. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Howard Gersh, and I'm exhausted. I want to start by thanking Superintendent Smith for being proactive and removing her pay raise from tonight's agenda. Because we're in such dire straits financially, having a pay raise go into effect would have been at best bad optics and at worst a slap in the face to the teachers who are getting zero. I'm not saying Superintendent Smith doesn't deserve a pay raise, but I'd recommend that she get the same percentage as the teachers get. My son, who is an MSA alum, wants to make a full-time career out of music. When we were speaking about his desire, he said, I don't care about money. And being the responsible dad that I am, said, yeah, but life costs money. I started by saying I'm exhausted, and that's not hyperbole. I'm not sure if you know this, but I worked over Christmas break and I worked over midwinter break, and I told myself I needed a spring break off, so I took it. I also worked 2 all-nighters in early June, and the next 2 nights in a row I went to bed at 4 a.m. and got up at 7:30. This was in order to edit my 2-hour animation festival highlighting my students' work over the school year. I'm 59 years old and I'm pulling practically 4 all-nighters. It's not sustainable. I haven't pulled this many all-nighters in about 40 years since college, and I don't even think I pulled that many back then. Not even at Lucasfilm or Disney did I pull any all-nighters, in spite of some 16-hour days during crunch time. I also worked 9 preps this year, and I'm so thankful to go back down to my usual of 8. I didn't bill for any of these hours. When I hear that we're getting zero, it is so disheartening, so disappointing, and so demoralizing. Like my son, I didn't get into education for the money, but like a responsible dad, I need to let you know that life costs money. Can we even please get a cost of living raise, please? I'm Howard Gersh, and I'm exhausted.
Next is Diana Miller.
Hello, I'm Diane Miller, and I'm a special ed teacher at Rancho Elementary. Good evening. I'm Diane Miller, and I'm here tonight to speak about the incredible value of our special education teachers and why we deserve a meaningful raise. Special education teachers are among the most dedicated professionals in our schools. Every day, we support our students with a wide range of learning issues, behavioral needs, physical needs, and emotional needs. We create individualized lesson plans, collaborate with families and service providers, manage extensive legal and documentation requirements, and ensure that every student receives the education and support that they deserve. My work extends far beyond the classroom. We are advocates, problem solvers, counselors, and champions for the students who often face significant challenges. We celebrate every milestone, no matter how small, and we help the students build the confidence and the skills that they need to succeed in school and in life. Yet, despite the critical role that we play, special education teachers often face overwhelming workloads, high stress levels, and increasing demands. Across California and the nation, schools are experiencing shortages in special education teachers. Many talented educators leave the profession because the workload continues to grow, while compensation does not reflect the complexity and importance of this job. When we fail to adequately compensate the special education teachers, we risk losing experienced professionals who have developed specialized skills that cannot easily be replaced. The cost of turnover is significant, not only financially, but also for those students who thrive on consistency, trust, and strong relationships with their teachers. Investing in special education teachers is an investment in our students, our families, and our entire community. Competitive salaries help attract and retain qualified educators, reduce staffing shortages, and ensure that students with disabilities receive the highest quality support that they are entitled to. Our special education teachers show up every day with patience, compassion, expertise, and commitment. We work tirelessly to help every student reach their potential. We, the teachers, deserve more than gratitude, and we deserve the compensation that's reflected of the essential work that we do. I respectfully agree that the district has to prioritize raises in the support for special education and all teachers. By doing so, we'd like to send a clear message that our work matters and our expertise should be valued, and our contributions to our students and schools are indispensable. Thank you very much.
Next is Mariah Fisher.
Hi, everyone. A little more emotional than I thought I would be. Amazing to see everyone here on your summer vacation. It's really inspiring to see that you all were as shocked as I was with their salary proposal, and I'm assuming that's why you're here this evening. So before I get into my thoughts that I wrote down, I just want to say this is my last time here as the union president. It's kind of crazy. It's been 7 years, and 1 week I'm gonna remove myself from some texts, chats, threads, and kind of close down an email, and it's emotional. I wasn't expecting to leave in the way that I am, or I wasn't expecting to leave in the conditions that I'm leaving in. The 0% is really hard to process. People, it's really important that we are recognized for our work. And I continue to question why a salary increase for your staff is not first in the budget, not last. Like, we have nothing left. Well, everyone, when we do our budget, by the end, it's all gone, right? I think it's really important that you understand we are the direct contact with the kids, right? I've been up here for 7 years now questioning why there are 7 of you, right? I'm just gonna bring that up again. Like, I know it's not a huge cost savings if you go down to 5, like all the other school boards in Marin County, but there is a cost savings, okay? And I think it's important that all little bits and pieces that we can take out of the budget come out of the budget. That shows us that the classrooms are the priority and not the district office. I took a look at your third interim. I have a draft email to Josh to ask some budget questions and set up a meeting with him. But you're saving 1% on your certificated salaries. That's the projection. That should go directly into certificated salaries. I think if money is allocated for something and you don't spend it, great. However, then to turn around and tell us a 0 when you've made a savings on our salary in your budget, I don't think that's right. I looked up in my Google AI novice that I am. I Googled, or AI'd, I'm not really sure which is which at this point, but I said, what do school districts do with COLA? I'm gonna read this to you. I know I'm over, but fire me. Okay. School districts use cost of living adjustment funds to increase their base operating budgets. Primarily, these dollars are allocated through collective bargaining to boost staff salaries and benefits. The remainder...
Mariah, sorry. We were respectful about other people, 3 minutes, so thank you. Next on our agenda is our public hearing, naming Redwood Grove at Sinaloa Middle School to honor Rich Gerhardt, former principal. And we have one public comment, Linda Kislin Jerry Berry. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Linda Kislingbury, and I just want to start with saying I watched Rich, when he was principal, plant these little seedlings, and now it's a beautiful redwood grove. And I live about a block from there, and I was sitting there one night, and I said, where's the sign? There was a sign originally. It was all approved. Somebody either stole it or it fell down. So I said, when Rich passed away last year, that this is something I wanted to do, and I'm going to pay for it. Okay, my husband and I are going to pay for it, so it's not coming out of any budget. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Rich. He was my children's principal and served as a temporary vice principal at San Marin, and that's when I met him. I had just retired from 30 years at Pac Bell, and I started volunteering at San Marin. And Rich said, would you do this thing called Challenge Day? So Rich and I did this Challenge Day, and it was right after Columbine, and it was a day to make kids all feel like they were equal. And he said, now you got to go out to all churches in town and get some money. And so that's how I got to know Rich. And we were friends for 25 years after that. And in the fall of 2000, I became the drama teacher at San Marin. I was there for almost 20 years. And I could always turn to Rich for advice. And in 2003, I decided to do the Laramie Project. And I had this idea that if we put the community in it, and it did it with students, it would be a great statement against hate. So I cast the chief of police, the mayor, a school board member, and Rich. And I cast him as a judge, and he was perfect in the part, absolutely wonderful. And we made a strong statement against hate, and Rich and I talked about every play I did after that. He would always call me and give me advice or tell me what he thought I should do. And we loved theater together, and we would go to plays together. He inspired me with his passion for education, his vision, and his leadership. And he was a great gardener. And I've told you the story, how I watched him plant these little trees with his team of people in mid-90s, and now go over there sometime and sit in that beautiful grove. It's very peaceful. And I think it's time to honor Rich again with a more permanent plaque, and like I said, we're paying for it. J.C. Van Hewen from Facilities is helping me, and he's going to install it, so there might be a little cost there. I don't know. I'll even pay for paint or stain to make it look better if somebody else does the painting and the staining. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing. Moving on, discussion action, review and approve naming Sinaloa Middle School, Redwood Grove for Rich Gerhardt, former principal.
I'd like to call up John Mattern, assistant principal at Sinaloa.
I am John Mattern, assistant principal at Sinaloa, and we approve of this idea of naming the grove after Rich Gerhardt.
Any questions or comments? Trustee Butler?
Just a comment. When I got on the board, Rich had already retired, but he was a go-to who you wanted to fill in as a principal somewhere across our sites. Jan Derby had him on her list, her short list, that he was our fill-in. I know he did it at Lou Sutton and some other places. So thank you, Linda, for bringing this forward and getting the sign put back up. I think it's needs to be there. And he did so much for Sinaloa and for across all of our schools here in Novato. He was a great guy. He was also Margaret Hackinson's husband. And was a big part of our district. She's moved on, retired, but she served at Hill Education Center for a very long time. So I make a motion.
Thank you. May I please have a second? Thank you, Trustee Mack. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Thank you. Staff report, High School Specialized Programs Committee report.
if I get it first.
I'm the clicker. I'm the clicker. All right, here we go. So, as a reminder, how we got here. So this is High School Specialized Programs Committee report. The board and I had a discussion around what's the purpose of our specialized programs? Why do they exist? We did some research and we realized, oh, it's been almost 25 years since MSA was originally founded. It's been 13 years since STEM was founded. And we talked a lot about, well, what's the purpose? What do we want from those programs? And so you had given 2 words, excellence and access. And so I brought these 2, we decided to go with this, and it seemed like a really good time to reconnect with our programs and their original purpose and kind of what they serve, how they serve the district. And for Josh, Julie, and myself, who are all on the committee, there was so much information we didn't have because we weren't part of that history. So it was really helpful for us. And so I'm going to walk you through what that process looked like. Okay, so one of the first things we did was evaluate enrollment. How were the patterns? What were some of the structures? Which students were applying to the programs? How were they applying? What was the criteria? Do we have board criteria? And we talked a lot about, use that information to talk about any changes even for this year, which was 25-26, very noisy. Okay. And so that was the purpose of the committee. Sorry, you guys, I got a little distracted. All right, so the people on the committee. So we brought together, we have people, Tracy, Julie, Francesca, Mike, Josh isn't on here, and Josh. They were on, sorry, Josh. You were a very important member, even though you're not listed here. Okay, so we're on both committees, and I want to thank Trustee Mack and Trustee Alexander for being a part of the committees when you could, which was most of the times. I think we ended up meeting 4 times this year. We had 2 meetings where we were separate and met with kind of just diving into MSA, diving into STEM, and then we brought both together. We had the program lead specialists, so Shannon and Morgan Miller, and then Katie Stafford, and then we had some of our wonderful teachers in both programs who had some of the history, and then we also brought in counselors. Okay, so one of the first things we ended up confronting, which wasn't necessarily exactly what we were talking about, but we ended up having a discussion and really thinking through trends of enrollment at San Marin. And so we discussed kind of the overall capacity of the campus. Ideally, it's about 1,200 students. If not, they're kind of bursting at the seams. Bathroom access is more difficult, parking, all of those pieces that come along with having more students. And then, so as the STEM program has always been said, grow, 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 they were starting to grow. That was attracting more students from the Novato High School area. It needed to be controlled so it didn't just keep growing. It couldn't get to 1,400 students. And so we had that discussion at the very beginning and said 1,200. And then on the flip side, right, Novato High has just more capacity overall. And so we have they've been up to 1,600 students, but that was pretty bursting at the seams. We have landed more on 1,500 as the best capacity or the prime capacity for that. So then STEM
for programmatic reasons and for space reasons, needed to be kept on the smaller side, right? Whereas MSA can become larger with its current capacity and can attract more students from outside the district. So our strategic priorities was we're discussing our mission alignment. So how is the program going? Are we meeting our district benchmarks for engagement and excellence? How are the students faring? Are we doing everything to support students so that they can be successful in the program? We looked at enrollment patterns. How many students are being attracted to the program from outside the district? How many students maybe went to private school in middle school, but still lived in Novato, and then came back to our high schools? So they became, kind of went from private into public. And then also attracting from outside the district and in between the school sites. But we definitely wanted to make sure that there was specialized program that was making accessible to all. So what ended up happening was we started a conversation around capacity for STEM, and then that led to the discussion around, well, what about all of these students who have applied and they still want a STEM education? But the room for STEM education is at Novato High School. Could we design something rather quickly in terms of a pathway so that more students could have that STEM experience that was so desirable? It's kind of like demand, right? Meeting demand. So next slide. So that's when we made the shift to include, it's not expanding STEM, it's its own STEM pathway that includes a different set of criteria or content pathway than the STEM Marin class, right? The STEM Marin program is 2 science classes every year over 4 years. The next gen STEM is more of an integral part of this high-end science classes mixed together with like a career technical education pathway. So meshing it with some of what we offer in the School of the Arts. I know there's a lot more pieces to that program, but I'm just going to stop there. Both programs have coordinated. I'm going to come back for a second. Also at Novato High is the Marin the Medical Career Pathways, right? So it's a 3rd specialized program. So just keep that in mind. So phase 1 here, so recruitment. So we've coordinated messaging recruitment timelines. We've been working on this for 3 years, right, Mike? In terms of when do people apply for interdistrict transfers? When do they get approved? How does that work in terms of tandem of when applications are due? Also keeping in mind when students need to be accepted to our program first, so that maybe they select and decide to stay at the public school as opposed to going to a private school that usually they're admitted mid-March. So all of those timelines. And then one of the things that was especially helpful this year was really helping the middle school counselors understand the programs that the students can be invited into or can apply to. And that was a little eye-opening for them. Because most of them are new and hadn't really had that chance. They even went over and visited the programs. So that was a big piece. And then we brought the 8th graders from Hamilton on a special student tour of Novato High. That is their feeder school. And then there were site visits and application support. So here is the transfer data. Okay. I did the best I could with this data. Thank you, Ellen, for helping me clarify it. Okay, so let's just look at Marin School of the Arts. Okay, so there's inter, intra, and then total. So in 25-26, for the Marin School of the Arts, there were 51 inters and 18 intras. Do you guys know the difference? Okay, inters and intras. But the 545.
Why don't you say it?
Sorry,
Just
yeah,
just
just
to,
yeah. For the people watching.
Interdistrict means those are students who are coming from outside the district. Intras, meaning they're coming from the other high school boundary. The 545 total is just to give you an idea of how many kids are in MSA. Okay. Then for this next year, there was heavier recruiting and just information all around. And so there's 72 students from outside the district who have been accepted and have registered, and 45, is that what the number says? I can't read. 45 intras for a total of 575, not totaling those numbers, but once again, total in the program. Medical career pathways, you can see here, it's the same idea. How many came from outside, how many came from inside the other high school. And then, so you can see there weren't as many intras this year coming from San Marin to Novato to the medical career pathways as there was the year before. There is a health pathway being developed at San Marin as well. And then Next Gen STEM, which is what I was explaining as kind of the additional STEM offering in the district, has 13 students from outside the district, 20 from San Marin, and 68 total. So we have 68 in our first year of Next Gen STEM. And then STEM Marin, you can read, okay, so, but I'm gonna explain this to you. So 25, 26. So the total at the bottom is how many students are entering STEM. I have to look toward my, thank you, colleagues. Okay, so 11 inters, 55 intras, and 205 total last year, or currently in this year, right? The year that just ended. And then for next year, we have 8 inters, 24 intras, and 168 total. I kind of look at this as STEM Marin was 205 total, right? This past year. But if you think about serving students across the 2 programs for next year, you have 168 plus 68. Julie, what's the math? 236. Okay, so that's actually it's increasing the access in that case. Next slide. So this is more about Next Gen STEM. I think I've already explained all of that. And then next year, so this group would like to keep meeting. They said, please not during the school day, Tracy. And I said, of course. And we're going to work on mission and vision finalization, which was kind of our original purpose, but it's not where we ended up starting, because we had to find some solutions for some pieces. And in fact, we needed to really gain awareness of each other's programs, and understand that, we are one district, and that we are here to support each other. And then, so that would continue for next year. They really appreciated that time to share ideas, think about recruitment together, think about timelines. So that's for next year.
Questions, comments? Trustee Gasson?
Thanks, Tracy. Just one question. Kids can just be in one pathway, right? I'm thinking Novato High. So if you're in Marin School of the Arts, you can't also be in medical career paths? You can be. Okay.
Yeah, you can. You can do both, because one's very academic, and so they're getting academic courses, and so then their electives are more in the MSA area.
Okay, so then that goes to a question of if there's much crossover in the programming. It doesn't. I just was looking. I mean, I appreciate the numbers because I've been wondering about this and learning how many people we attract to come into the district, because that's dollars, but also just shows how well regarded our programming is and important it is for our kids. So, and it was also, I hear a lot about the medical career pathways, and so that was interesting. I would have hoped to see an increase, so that was a little surprising that
I want to say that program has a capacity limit.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I really like what they're doing, and so I love
Yes.
that we have that too. So.
If anything, it's kind of the same idea of amplifying that program over at San Marin with the help from Bay Health by the Bay. What's it called? By the Bay Health, who has been fundraising and makes that that health pathway possible.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Trustee Pickus?
On that same slide, with the transfer data, first of all, I think the conversations that are happening around this are so valuable and really interesting. And I think it's, alignment and more conversation, I think, is always so great. One of the things that I think about when I look at these numbers is the number of inter-district transfers. Obviously, lots of budget conversations for us to be having, and we're looking at programs that are bringing more students to us. Dr. Smith, I appreciate the observation around combining the two totals around the Next Gen STEM and the STEM Marin. And I'm wondering, when you look at these other numbers, as someone who, there's a lot to these programs that I probably don't know, are there other observations or things that you're noticing, like the, consistency in the 116 for medical career pathways, but the MSA numbers, they went up? I don't know, I'm just wondering if there are any other takeaways that you have, maybe not, but when you look at these numbers that I might not know to see in these numbers, does that question make sense?
I mean, I think I pointed out most of them.
Okay.
I think if you look at the numbers for MSA 25-26 to 26-27, you can definitely feel the effects of the higher recruitment, which was a lot of it was done to private schools.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Trustee Jacobson?
I'm wondering if you can speak, so we do see a difference in 25-26 to 26-27 in STEM. Could you speak a little bit to why that's a different number? And would you also speak to what it would look like if we were to expand that program and have it facilitate more students, obviously not to the numbers of MSA, but larger than what they are?
Absolutely. I think that would require like a longer term plan. One of our first discussions was the two words, right? Excellence and access. And so if you increase the number, you're increasing access. But it also is harder to find the high quality teachers that program requires to attract and retain them. And so it's kind of what is that balance between staffing, student interest, quality of the program that everybody's looking for. And so we landed on this was the lever that we could use to limit the amount of enrollment overall, because San Marin overall was getting too big, which does speak to a boundary change at some point if we need to. But the limiting the program intras was going to be a helpful lever for us to pull. And so we did with great intention. Julie worked intensely with Katie Stafford, who is the program specialist there, who does a tremendous job of taking in all the applications and putting them in the spreadsheet and giving them points and figuring out, who are the top 100 and is that the total was 168 was the highest number? Like that was our cutoff point. And so based on 5 pathways, right? Biotech, two bio, 2 engineering, and 1 art. And so 5 times 31, what? Times 34, 5 times 34 gives us that number. So that was where that total got there. Because as soon as and then when you look at the beautiful science classrooms, if you go bigger than that, then you're starting to spill out, and then those students in those classes and that teacher don't have the same facilities as the other pieces. It's just something that requires more thinking, and it's super exciting that it's so popular, right? That it's gaining traction and excitement around the community. Is that helpful? Okay.
Trustee Mack?
I want to thank everybody for this. I know it was a big task. and it's something we haven't done yet. I want to acknowledge, though, the effort put in. First off, MSA, fantastic. Look at those numbers. 51 inters to 72 inters. That's a massive growth. So, better recruitment. I'm really happy to see that. That really helps Novato High in general, helps establish MSA. I suspect that number is going to continue going up thanks to a certain movie that got released. As well, though, I really want to acknowledge the work that the STEM folks put into recruiting. And it wasn't just recruiting students. It was recruiting students in an equitable way. They really have taken to heart the need to expand STEM beyond the traditional kids of means to kids that don't have the same chances. And they did it. They actually had a program to do it, and they were able, they had a way of identifying those kids and all that, but they couldn't because of our physical limitations. And I really want to acknowledge that. I want everybody here at the board to know that, because it's a challenge and it's a bit of a it's a bit of a heart-crushing kind of thing for the STEM staff who did all this work and they couldn't pull off. They couldn't finish off that last bit that they really wanted to achieve, and they're frustrated. And I completely empathize with that. And that said, I want to do everything we can to acknowledge their work, which I'm trying to do right now, but also work with them to find ways to continue that work. And I don't know how exactly yet. It could be a boundary change. I don't know. That this is something that it's not going to happen overnight, and we always have a lot of things we got to work on otherwise. But I do want to acknowledge that. And also too, I don't want to say disappointed. It's just unfortunate that physical limitations had to become part of this discussion. Because in the end, this discussion started off, at least for me, to being something, hey, what's the mission? Why do we have these programs? Because we can't make decisions about these programs unless we know why we have them. And then whenever we make a decision about it, is it supporting that? Is it supporting that mission? Excellence and access, two great words. Let's have a mission statement that has those words in it somewhere. We need to do that. And I know that's part of our next steps. And I do embrace having the folks in the trenches do that work, or at least help them do that work, having a say in that work. So I really think it's critical that we not stop here. We keep going. We keep on getting these programs also to work together. They learned a lot about each other. And it was interesting to watch. There's an interesting dynamic. And trying to break down that competitive barrier that seems to be there, it started, it's happening, and I'm glad to see it, but it's still kind of there because one side felt like they lost. And the other side, I'm not going to say felt like they won, but they did great. They did a great job in recruiting. And I want to try to address that some way, somehow. Sorry for taking so long, but that's just what I saw.
Thank you, Trustee Mack. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Smith. Next is on our staff report is certificated evaluation report.
All right, Franny's going to help me with this one. We worked together to really dive into what a new certificated evaluation system could look like. It was, it's been 2009? How long has it been since 2008 that we had the one that we have, right? So maybe after 17 years, it's time to reconsider its value. One of the things that we noticed just off the side is the standards and the rubrics that we use to evaluate teaching were from 2009. but they have been updated. And so that would be an example of one of the updates that we did. But I'm just going to go over these very quickly. We had a committee together, and we looked at the evaluation with a vision and a mission around it being respectful, confidential, fair, demonstrates equity and consistency, or equality and consistency. But really, we came from it as a place of being helpful. We spend a lot of time observing certificated staff, and supervisors and principals spend a lot of time on this. How do we make sure it's worth it? How do we make sure that time is satisfying for everybody, and people are getting the feedback that they deserve and they need without it feeling like you're just jumping through hoops? My teacher board member is nodding her head. And so, next slide. Our task force members, we had Megan, so I'm from San Jose. Nicole is a RSP teacher at Olive. Lisa, first grade at Pleasant Valley. Laura Hira, principal at Olive. Arzu, psychologist at Novato High. Juliet Jones, assistant principal, San Jose. Dawn Moini, director of special ed. Me and Franny. So this group met 6 times this year, all day, and we really dug in. We had a template from which to follow that other districts had been working on, and so we were able to update that. Thank you to Ellen for helping with making it ours, and we'll go from there. So next slide, one of the key pieces, and maybe Franny, I'm going to let you speak to this.
So for our teachers and specialists, one of the key pieces to be updated, as Dr. Smith started to talk about at the beginning, was just updating the California standards for the teaching profession that are used for the rubric. They're now updated in this pilot program to the standards adopted for 2024. And then we adapted and created draft rubrics for certain specialists like nurses, school counselors, psychologists, social workers, and speech pathologists.
So think about how all the different responsibilities of those job descriptions. A lot of it has nothing to do with the teaching rubric. But for the last 17 years, speech therapists were evaluated using a teaching rubric. How difficult is that for both the speech therapist and the principal? So this was really key to honoring and validating the various work of our certificated staff, including nurses and counselors. Okay, keep going. So these are very similar timelines, just to let you know that this is the cycle that we use. The temporary and probationary certificated staff are here. They're on a slightly different cycle than the permanent cycle. And I'll talk more about the alternative evaluation next. So the core components of the process is goal setting. So anybody who's part of this pilot, where we will be bringing this as a pilot, which we have assigned MOU with NFT to do, will happen in October. And then there's a planned observation and an informal observation. Each of those followed up with a meeting and feedback, like a post-conference conversation. Now, the cycle of inquiry for permanent members. So once you've reached a tenured status, then you move into this alternative space where instead of being evaluated on all parts of the rubric, you actually get to choose which piece of the rubric you want to focus on and you want to improve on. So this is the formative part, right? So I'm teaching around, I really want to figure out how to make sure that this strategy that I really want to try is going to engage my English learners. And so I am going to select that part of the rubric and focus on my planning elements, right? And then I'm going to share that with my principal before he or she comes to observe me. And they're going to give me feedback specifically on those English learners and that strategy. So it's very much more specific focused as opposed to trying to give feedback on all 6 of the CSTPs. We're going to try it. It works elsewhere. And then the alternative evaluation, this was a new addition. If after how many years? 5?
They have to have
10?
5 years of permanent status.
So 5 years of permanent status and satisfactory evaluations. They can choose to do a more of a project as part of their evaluation, and they do check-ins with their principal. They say how they're doing on their project, which could be like a professional development plan. It could be, I'm going to learn how I'm going to plan this new themed unit, or I am going to learn this new assessment as an RSP teacher. And then at the end of that, you do a reflection and a report. So work that you might already be doing, but it's now being validated, but you're also learning and growing as a professional. So on terms of all of the innovating, applying, emerging, we took most rubrics have about 5 headings across. We merged them down into 3 so that it's easier to mark how well the lesson went. And these are especially important when we're talking about the temporary and probationary teachers and certificated staff. And then our pilot process suggestions. Do you want to do this one, Franny?
Yeah. So if one of our certificated unit members is going to be scheduled to be on cycle for evaluation in 26-27, with mutual agreement between them and their administrator, they can participate in the pilot. And that's going to be for our permanent on-cycle people. And then there is, if they meet the criteria, amongst others, the 5 years of permanent status, they could also elect to pilot the alternative evaluation plan. And the other piece, with the permanent cycle of inquiry, there's actually 2 possible timings for when the principals or evaluators could be doing those evaluations, either at in the beginning semester, if you will, beginning part of the school year, or the spring. So in the fall/winter or in the spring. And so that's something different for our principals as well. And I think will be beneficial for them to not have everything necessarily happening all at the same time. We did already give some training and some discussion with the principals at our recent DLT meetings. And they've given us some good feedback already and questions. And they're going to be receiving additional training them giving feedback to Lindsay and Dr. Smith and the rest of the team on things that we may need to try and tweak, or things we need to talk with NFT during negotiations about. And then we agreed as part of the MOU that the evaluation committee will continue to meet. I think did we set a minimum of 3 meetings, I feel like? Yeah. So, and basically timing those meetings after there's been an opportunity for administrators to give that feedback at DLT or principal meetings.
And so the actual pilot rollout is also listed in your packet, just so you can see the details of implementation and the check-in process. Hopefully, after a year of feedback and pilot, then we might be able to put this into the contract. Okay. Yeah.
When you presented to DLT, what kind of feedback did you hear back, and how are you going to implement that?
I know one thing had to do with we somehow missed having a resource teacher rubric, and that job is different than a teacher, and so that's one of our jobs, is to get that created. So that would be one of them. Did you?
I mean, it was more about getting some clarity about things, like clarifying for them that yes, there really is one standard from the rubric that the teacher is selecting and focusing on. That was like a big deal. They were like, we're just going to pick one. So, I think it was mostly just wondering about the way we worded things or getting clarity.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Gasson and then Trustee Jacobson.
Thank you for all the work on this. I really, really like this kind of thing. I just believe so much in having ways that we can actually have consistency and meaningful input and actually process. So I like all the work, and I'm still kind of, this isn't my realm, so I'm still trying to process it all, but I kind of like understanding how it all fits together. And I also just want to add, the timeline and having this is just so nice and helpful. I like seeing us do this more and more, of having stuff even kind of just laid out, just an easy visual in terms of what to expect, and keeps everyone in the same page and understanding, okay, where are we going? And I don't necessarily want to put my colleague on the line, but I was curious about her thoughts on it. So if you cared to share.
I do. No, I love this because I think it takes what is usually a very perfunctory obligation and makes it useful and meaningful. And so I think it serves to provide a useful tool, hopefully for the staff who are being evaluated, but also makes it easier and a great tool and a conversation starter for the administrators who are doing the evaluation. I am really excited to see how the pilot plays out, to see the kind of feedback that we get. Is it actually more useful for people on both ends of the tool? And this is something that you have been talking about since you were, onboarded 3 years ago, or however long that, right? You were like, hey, here's some things that's happening. Here are some great tools. Let's start the conversation. So I know this has been in the works for a long time. I'm really excited to see it play out. And my one, two thoughts is, one is, do we have the rubric? We keep talking about the rubric that's being used to evaluate. I know there's a couple rubrics.
The teacher one?
Or any of them, just to kind of see, as we're talking about what the rubrics look like. I think maybe part of your comment is like, how does it really work? Like, what does an evaluation process look like now, and how will this be different? It would, I think, be interesting for people who don't know to be like, hey, this is what it used to look like, and then here is what we're doing now, just to kind of have that comparison.
Yeah, we can share those with you.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then my other comment and suggestion would be, you have on here responsibilities and ratings, and the evaluator's role as coach and decision maker. I think that being a coach is a very unique skill set. And I will speak for myself, as a teacher, I have to have faith that the person evaluating me understands what they're looking at, and has some wisdom and knows how to ask good questions. And there's so much to making that conversation meaningful that I think some guidance and support for the administrators who are evaluating could be really useful. I think some of our administrators are probably naturally gifted in those conversations, and for others, it might require some training. So that's kind of the one additional piece. You can have the right tools, but if you don't have the skill set, then that conversation could fall flat.
That's an excellent point. We do have prompting questions that can be used to guide the discussion, that are meant to help with that as well. But yes, just practice.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And on your timeline, when you have these moments for people the administrators at various sites, to kind of say, hey, how did it go? What worked and what didn't? Like, that builds the capacity for the administrators as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how this pilot goes.
Thank you.
Trustee Pickus asked my question about the rubric, so thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much. Next on our agenda is California Healthy Kids Survey.
All right, good evening, trustees and Dr. Smith. I am here tonight to report out on the California Healthy Kids Survey. This survey was administered at the end of March into early April, and it was administered to 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grade students throughout the district. And it is funded through our TUPE grant. So TUPE is Tobacco Use Prevention Education. The 5th graders, we had to send home an opt-in form that needed to be signed by the parents and then returned. And then the 7th, 9th, and 11th graders, they received an opt-out form. So that was brought home, and if parents did not want their student to take the survey, they had to return that opt-out form signed. And the survey itself gives us good information around student wellness, the climate of the school, and student resilience. Each school received their own individual school report that was specific to their school and the students that took the survey at the school. And then we received an overall district climate report for elementary and for secondary. And then these results were published in May of 2026, so just recently. So these are the participation results. And you can see that 5th grade is always, well, at least historically in the few years that I've been doing this, has historically been low because it's always hard to get that that permission slip opt-in form back. And I know from talking to administrators that the teachers really tried to get those forms back and making phone calls home. But nevertheless, a little over 58% of our 5th graders took the survey, which is down about 5%, 6% from 2 years ago in 2024. And then you can see 7th grade, 9th grade, and 11th grade, those percentages are much higher because those are opt-out forms. And then non-traditional are the students that are attending Marin Oaks, Nova, or students that may be on home hospital instruction. Overall, our percentage of for the district was 78.3%. And I always wonder, like, is that good? Is that not good? When I contacted CDE, the California Department of Education, they said anything over 70% for a district is considered a good survey result, which was great to hear. Okay, so for the next majority of slides, I wanted to give you a district level perspective on a number of the different categories that students took survey questions on. So the first one is caring adult relationships. And so you can see that the elementary students had certain questions that they had. So for example, do teachers and other grown-ups at school care about you, listen when you have something to say, or make an effort to get to know you? And then right underneath that, you can see that if they answered yes all of the time or yes most of the time, in I think there were like 4 or 5 responses they could choose from, those were considered positive responses. And then secondary students, I'm not going to read off that question, but you can see what their questions were. And then if they answered pretty much true or very much true, those were considered positive responses to those questions. And so these are the results. So this is a comparison from 2022 to 2024 to 2026. And you can see that across the board, the percentages went up, which is what we like to see. What I did for each one of these questions is very similar to what I did when I reported out on the safety report that I did a few weeks ago, is I reached out to administrators and asked them why they thought these percentages either went up or they went down or stayed the same. For this particular one, they attributed the percentages going up to our wellness hubs being utilized more so than ever before by students. At the high school level, freshman academic supports being put in place for those students just coming in. The elementary counselors have been a huge addition to our elementary schools with tier 1 supports that they're doing and activities that they're doing at lunchtime. to build community, and then the second step curriculum for social emotional learning and the culture of belonging. For each one of these graphs, you're also going to see, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these at all because I just wanted to include the numbers that equated to the percentages. So I just took all the numbers for the positive responses or neutral or negative responses from 2022, 2024, 2026. And you can see how I got those percentages. And so those are going to follow each one of these graphs. For school connectedness, you can see that the questions that they either had to agree or disagree to, there were 5 statements that they were given. And to factor in for the elementary schools for it to be a positive, they had to average a yes all of the time answer or yes most of the time. And for secondary, their answers had to be either strongly agree or agree to be considered positive responses. And then again, here are the results comparing the 3 years. And every level, the percentages went up with students feeling connected to school. And again, I asked administrators why they thought that was. The high schools attributed it to, one of the things they attributed to was expanding specialized programs. So having more things to offer students for students to kind of find their area of interest. And then going back to the adult caring relationships, athletics was a big thing, especially at the middle schools. Students feeling connected to their school because they're now part of a basketball team or a volleyball team or a soccer team. And then the work that especially the elementary and middle schools have been doing around attendance and incentivizing students to come to school and showing that we really want you to come to school. We want you here. And again, the numbers that match up with the graph percentages. All right, another area is chronic sadness. So these were pretty simple questions that simple question that the elementary students had to answer. And they had to answer yes all of the time or yes most of the time to the question of, do you feel sad? And then the secondary students had a little bit more in-depth question that you can see there. They had to answer yes to that particular question that's up there. And then here are the percentages. So ideally, we want to see these percentages come down over the years. Elementary went up a little bit, but you can see that middle school, high school, and non-traditional school students, those went down pretty good amount. And then again, when I talked with the administrators, they talked about the adult caring relationships again. They really talked about the work of the counselors and what they're doing with the students. Again, the athletics, the pull to the school for the students feeling connected as well. And again, the numbers. Okay, this is specific, so I separated this out. So this was, it wasn't considered bullying, it was considered harassed, so feeling harassed at school. So the elementary students were asked these questions, which is, do other kids at this school? And then there were a number of different questions that you can see there that they had to answer to. And so if they answered yes all of the time, yes most of the time, or yes some of the time, it was considered to be you were harassed at school at some point. So ideally, we want these numbers to be low. And you can see they did go down, but to me, the number's still too high, right? These numbers should be really, really, really low. All they have to do, though, is answer yes to one of those questions, and they're in this response. Again, asked the administrators around why they think this number went down at least a little bit. They went to, or they talked about the second step program and the culture of belonging, positive relationships with staff. They talked about upstander work that they're starting to do with the elementary school students. And some administrators even talked about the consistency of the protocols that we've put in place and the discipline matrix, and students knowing what is expected of them, and if they happen to do something they shouldn't be doing, they know what the results are going to be when it happens. This particular numbers, I'm going to stop here just for a second because I made a last minute change on this one. And so in your, I don't know if you have your packet in front of you or if you've seen the packet, your packet on this particular slide did not have the years at the top, 2022, 2024, 2026. So I added those in there just so you knew which years go with the numbers. And we will upload this to Gamut tomorrow morning. So it's on there. But I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that last minute change that we put on there. Secondary students, so this is categorized as harassed or bullied at school. And so they had a couple of questions that they had to answer that are up there. Within the last 12 months of school, did this happen? How many times on school property have you been pushed, shoved, slapped, hit, or kicked by someone who wasn't just kidding around? Or how many times on school property were you harassed or bullied? They had a number of answers to choose from, but if they picked one or more times or more than that, they were in this response. And so ideally, we don't want these numbers to be high. These numbers did go down, and you can see that at each level. But ideally, like I said before, we want these numbers to be extremely low. The administrators that I talked with said they're doing a much better job of intervening earlier when they know about things that are happening. They also talked about the upstander work, and they gave credit, a lot of credit, especially at the high school and even into the middle school, to our community specialists that work with our kids around these topics. All right, and then there are the numbers that go with the percentages. And then perceived school safety. So elementary school students were asked if they feel safe at school, and then secondary students were asked how safe do you feel when you're at school. So elementary school students had to respond yes all the time or yes most of the time to be considered safe at school, and then the secondary students had to say either very safe or safe. And then here are the percentages. So they either went up at the secondary level, and then it looks like at the elementary level, they stayed the same as they were 2 years ago. And then they, again, when I talked with administrators, they talked a lot about the community work that they do at the beginning of the school year. And they, for a lot of these topics, they kept going back to the trusted adult relationships that are formed from the beginning of the year. All right, and then there are the numbers. All right, and then this is it's a same question for 5th all the way through 11th grade is, have you ever vaped? I only had data for 24 and 26. I was not able to find, in 2022 when the survey was administered, I was not in this position, and so I just couldn't find the data. The other categories, I was able to find it, but I don't know if this question wasn't asked in this format or not, but I wasn't able to find the 22 data. But ideally, we want these numbers to come down, and for the most part, they did come down, especially at the non-traditional school sites. 11th grade went up by 1%, but all the other grade levels went down. And when I, again, talked with administrators, we have 2P coordinators at all the secondary levels that do a lot of preventative work and lunchtime activities with the wellness hub specialists around prevention and drug awareness and making sure that they know the harmful effects of drugs. And they also attributed it to a program called WELO, which is We Lead Ours, which is at the middle school level. And this program comes in and talks to middle school students around making good decisions and the dangers of using drugs. All right, and then there are the numbers again, the 2022 numbers I did not have for this particular question. And then no substance use at school. This was a question, it was just for secondary. And it said during the past 30 days, on how many days on school property did you, and there were a number of different options. They had to answer 0 days basically to all 6 questions to be able to consider to be a positive response. So we would love for this number, when you see the graph, we want the number to be high. because that means these students are reporting that they've never, 0 times that they have done anything on campus. So you can see at the middle school level, it's at 95%. It actually went down by 1%, but still a pretty high percentage. And then high school stayed the same, and non-traditional went down. So that's definitely an area of growth for us. And then, again, the numbers that match the percentages. And then I wanted to stop right there only because the last time I did this presentation 2 years ago, I talked to you all about, well, these are things that we want to improve on. And so everything that we stated in the last time we did the presentation, the percentages went up. So they improved, which is great. So at elementary, I talked about caring relationships because that percentage had gone down a little bit, and it went up from 64 to 67%. Middle school, school connectedness was at 50%. That went up to 52. High school, perceived school safety went from 62 to 71%, so that was great. And then non-traditional school connectedness went from 49% to 62%. That was a huge jump for them. What do we still need to work on? Everything. Like, we still need to work on everything, in my opinion. I will highlight harassed or bullied at school. I mean, I said that when I came to those slides. Those numbers are still too high. Even though they improved, they're still too high, right? We want those numbers to go down a lot. We're always looking to reduce the substance use. And then, honestly, participation, right? We want higher a number of kids taking the survey. So next year, so normally this is done every 2 years, but MCOE has a grant from the California Health and Human Services that they are going to be funding this survey for the next 3 times that we administer it, but we are required to administer it starting next year. So normally we do every 2 years, but because we're going to be consistent with all the other districts that are participating in the county, we are all doing it next year, and then we're skipping the following year and then doing it 2 years from now. So just so you know, there will be another report next year for California Healthy Kids Survey. And then my final thing is the survey modules and the survey results, not the individual school results, but the overall school climate report card is what they call it, which is what I reported out on, is on the NUSD website under student services, and you'll see a little link there for California Healthy Kids Survey. And I think that's it, unless if there's any questions.
Trustee Alexander.
Thank you so much. Just a quick question. How is this communicated with parents? Is this something that's shared out in the community?
So the school, I don't know that we have ever shared it out publicly as a district. It's on our website, so it's out there, and I'm sure we can put it out there for parents to know that it's on there. But normally it's the schools that will put out information with regard to the survey and work with their leadership teams.
So that's consistent with the schools. They do share that out in their school community?
They, as far as I know, they do, but I can double check on that to
Thank
make
you.
sure. That's my understanding. Yeah.
Trustee Jacobson.
I just wanted to say thank you for adding the portion about what findings you had from administrators. I think it's really helpful for us to understand that more, sort of like the follow-up to the data. It's really helpful. Thank you.
Trustee Gasson.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I had a thought, and I feel old. I remember the days when, like, it was cool to have a clove. But it impressed me. Well, first of all, knowing that some 5th graders were vaping kind of bugs me. But I remember when my kids were younger, there was like this huge thing. In fact, you were principal at Sinaloa, or assistant principal. Just all that anxiety over kids getting into vaping and everything. And then to see some of the numbers, though, or even that, I mean, I turned the page on the one of you've ever done stuff at school, shocked me.
Yeah.
But then I also had a kind of an awareness. I was actually one of the people checking kids in at the Safe Grad Night, and just impressed that the kids are genuinely just want to be there and have a good time. And that whole transition of, I was probably hugely drunk when I graduated from high school. So is that just a normal trend of a transition for kids in general, that they're not, or is it just that we just happen to get results from kids who are just not vaping and doing these things at school? Or
I want to make sure I'm understanding your question.
I'm sorry,
No,
did I
that's
throw
okay.
you off with the clove or the fact I was drunk in high school?
Well, kind of both. But I was wondering, are you asking me, is there a trend that they're not doing it?
Yeah, I mean, is it like, I mean, when my kids were in middle school or getting in, it was like this huge thing about vaping. And I knew there was a lot of education around that. And then I see some of these, it feels like it's where kids are just not doing vaping and drugs at school or whatever. I mean, at least by the indication, 98% said that they hadn't been doing these things at school. Is that just a typical trend, do you think, that's evolved?
I don't, only because I don't have the data to back that up. But I will say, I think we're doing more especially at the middle school level, around educating kids around vaping and decision making, like I was mentioning early with that program that's come in.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're doing a better job of that. I know when I was at Sinaloa, we didn't have all those programs available.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah,
helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with the one that you had referenced,
Mm-hmm.
but, and I speak to this, I think the last time my daughter was part of the SWAP, Student Wellness Ambassador, and I know there's a lot of pride in sharing that. In fact, she'll, rattle off all the statistics about vaping and everything. And so I know that kids are more informed and have access to information, and maybe that's a piece of it too.
Yeah.
It's not the, the thing that it used to. I mean, there's just so many more educated kids out there maybe too that's helping support that. But anyway, thank you for all the work that you do.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Pickus and then Trustee Mack.
Thank you very much for this. I think the budget piece is kind of on my mind as we look at all of these, and knowing that a lot of cuts are coming. I wonder, as we look at this data, what parts of the things that we are doing that are moving the needle are not tied to a big price tag. And that's sort of the question that I'm asking, or that's happening in my head. A lot of these are social emotional programs, and so questions that are coming up for me are like our second step curriculum and a culture of belonging curriculum. Are those one-time costs? Are those ongoing costs? What are the things like you talked about the decrease in vaping or in use of tobacco products, right? Those are happening through our wellness centers, but also through student groups, right? And so not necessarily an answer needed, but as we are making decisions about budget, I think that this data is really helpful in terms of us saying, hey, what's moving the needle and what can be preserved in there while we're also being fiscally responsible. So just food for thought.
My ears perked up when you talked about connectedness and related to specialized programs. Let's remember that when we're talking about specialized programs and how that might fit in with the mission statement. And of course, sports. But I'll just let that go.
Any other questions or comments? Can we go back to the harassment slide, please? What I would like to understand is we do already a lot, right? We have like trainings for parents, like online bullying with the trainings with the police department. I'm wondering what else can we do to, make sure. Oh no, wait, sorry, the other one, the one before. That one? Yes. Or wait, one was really high.
So this was the elementary one, and then this is the secondary.
Oh. It was elementary, yeah. So just looking at the data, and some of it is really positive, but some areas are, still need a lot of work. So just trying to figure out how we can improve this, right? And some of these touch points we've also talked about in the equity committee. So it would be nice to bring some of this data back so we can find solutions with administrators and our community, just because we gotta continue to engage with our parents.
One of the things that we've talked about in both the equity imperative and I heard Mike mention it was upstander training. So helping students intervene in those moments. It doesn't necessarily prevent the harassing from happening, but at least says this is not okay.
Trustee Mack?
Glad you brought this up because that caught my attention as well, and it just saddens me to think that elementary schools, you're just as likely as not to be bullied, harassed. And I think we can all identify with that to a certain degree when we were kids, but that doesn't make it acceptable. And I almost wonder if it might help, if you see what you think, of maybe breaking this down by site. I'm wondering if there's hot spots. That might be one way to attack it.
Absolutely. Yep.
School site. Trustee Gassett?
Sorry. The upstander training, it had me flash back to an incident we had with the inappropriate use of a word, and we had training here at the district office, and I was a part of that. In fact, I think I have the card still in my wallet. I think sometimes when we hear things, even as adults, we're not sure exactly what to do or what to say, how to intervene appropriately. And so part of it was helpful for me, because I always feel like I'm always sticking in for people. But when that happens, everyone's looking at everyone going, does somebody really just say that? And then you miss that window of opportunity. And I'm wondering if, because I see this as a piece, if we're teaching the kids at home, at school, that's wonderful. But do the parents know and understand that that's being, what is the model that's being used or trained? Are the parents also aware of that? Again, as a mom, I would find it helpful to know and have that handy, because I think that it's not just our kids. I think we learn our behavior from others, and we should be modeling what we want to see in our kids.
Any last minute thoughts? Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Saisi. Moving on, 2026-2027 Local Control Indicators Report.
Apologize. I'm having a little bit of an issue starting here. What's it doing? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Smith. Tonight I am going to talk about our local indicators and our annual self-reflection. To understand the local indicators, kind of talk about the California dashboard as a whole, we are required to report on a number of priorities. The state gives us a ton of data, thinking about CASP tests, LPAC tests, chronic absentee data, and then it's our responsibility as the LEA to look at our own local measures and report on those measures. And within the local indicators, this is part of the LCAP process. So in addition to writing the LCAP and the budget overview for parents, we must report on these indicators, and we literally just write our synopsis of our self-reflection tools, and then once we upload them, we have met standard as long as we have conducted all of this. So this is one of the portions of the LCAP piece, and I need to present these in a public board meeting. Check. First one, here we go. And here, sorry, this is a fun graphic talking about the priorities that we must report on. We talk about basic services, implementation of state standards, how are we implementing those, how are we involving parents into our decision-making process, again, how are we measuring pupil achievement, again, pupil engagement, just listening to the Healthy Kids survey, with our school climate as well. And how are we providing a broad access to students, example of our specialized program. So you've already heard a lot of the reports tonight kind of talk significantly about the things that we're doing in our district. And for our first priority, we're talking about kind of basic services and conditions. And so in these self-reflection tools, we work with our HR team and we talk about the number of misassigned teachers. Now, teacher misassignments doesn't mean we have 67 teachers who are uncredentialed. This could be a single period, for example. So if I might have somebody who has a biology credential and they may be teaching a section of chemistry because they have the expertise and we missed it somehow or things along those lines, that's what reports as a misassignment. So the data is also a little bit lagging. Currently, we have 67 misassignments that we rectify throughout the year and get the appropriate credentials squared away and work with the state to do so. We also have our standards aligned instructional materials. So these are reported. If anybody has concerns, the Williams complaint, if we have to answer any of those, there haven't been any reports of that. So 100% of our students have had access to standards aligned material. And in terms of our safe and clean functional facilities, thank you to JC and his team. They do an audit of all of our sites. And they go around and they kind of mark on their, it's called the Facilities Inspection Toolkit. And they go around and look at any kind of issues that may be happening at sites. It could be light bulb wasn't replaced, missing ceiling tile, things along those lines. And then they rank if there's issues. We have 7 sites that receive a good repair, 4 sites that received a fair rating, and 2 sites that had poor condition. And it could just be the number of issues that we have. These are not major issues. These are temporary or situational conditions that are remedied throughout the school year. So thank you to JC and his team for taking care of all those and then going through diligently to make sure our facilities are appropriate. Our other priorities include state standard implementation. And so this really looks at how are we aligning our curriculum. How do we utilize the state standards in our English language arts programs, in our math programs, in our next gen science standards? How are we learning, how are we supporting our staff with professional learning? How are we helping them through coaching, professional learning communities? Are we providing targeted training to support our English learners? And so we rate ourselves on how we're doing in those capacities. In terms of priority 3, we discuss parent and family engagement and how are we building strong community ties. How many of our folks are attending our important meetings, our school site councils, our district English language advisory council, our ELAC meetings, our English language advisory councils, and how many folks are participating in the decision-making process. We also look at our school priority 6, school climate surveys, student connectedness. And so we've just heard about our California Healthy Kids survey. We also do our own thought exchange survey, which asks a lot of similar questions. Do I feel safe at school? Are there trusted adults on campus? Am I engaged in my classroom? And so we measure those results and report those to you. Again, access to a broad course of study, and this is for our secondary, thinking of our high school primary schedules. Do we have course opportunities that everybody can participate in? Are our classes open to all students? Are there opportunities for career technical education, science, arts, things along those lines? And how we are supporting our students and providing the necessary scaffolding for all students to reach their desired pathways. And then we also have a category called other pupil outcomes, which is things that are not reported in the English, math, or science. So how are students looking? How are they doing in history classes? How are they looking in other non-core of the science, English, and math classes? With the local indicators, so again, the assessment's there's a narrative summary to all the pieces. We've assessed and measured our progress towards our goals using the self-reflection tools. Again, they're presented at a public hearing tonight. If the board says, yes, we appreciate this presentation, I upload all this information tomorrow and I say, yes, we have met all our standard on our local indicators. And with that, I will take any questions.
No. Any questions? Okay. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Dr. Sinyard. I really appreciate it. Okay. Next on our agenda is discussion action, and the first item is approval of the 2024-2027 Local Control Accountability Plan and Local Control Funding Formula Budget Overview for Parents.
Okay, thank you. And tonight I am presenting the district's 2024-2020 through 2027 Local Control and Accountability Plan for consideration and approval. And we discussed the LCAP at our previous board meeting on June 9th, and we did not receive any major feedback, anything along those lines in terms of changes or drastic needs to do anything differently. Our plan reflects our ongoing commitment to academic achievement, student well-being, equity, and meaningful engagement with our school community. And before requesting approval, I do want to thank all of the team members who helped put the LCAP together. Thank you to Josh and to Jeff and to Tracy and to Franny and special education, all the parents, all the students, all of you guys for all the surveys that you've done. It is so appreciated. We do absolutely take feedback and build our plan. And so with that, I am requesting that the board approve the 2024-2027 Local Control Accountability Plan and Budget Overview for Parents as presented.
Any questions or comments? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the 2024-2027 Local Control Accountability Plan and Local Control Funding Formula Budget Overview for Parents? Thank you, Trustee Alexander. May I please have a second? Thank you, Trustee Mack. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Okay, next. Approval of the 2026-2027 Local Control Accountability Plan Federal Addendum.
Thank you. And finally, I am presenting the district's federal addendum for consideration and approval. And the addendum aligns kind of our goals within the LCAP with how we're spending our federal dollars. The original federal addendum was approved back in 2018-19, and every year we annually look at it to see if there's significant changes. This year, the funding has remained similar in terms of what we're funding our items for Titles 1, 2, and 3. Title 1 is focused on our early literacy paraeducators at the elementary level. Title 2 contains our professional development for staff, including our teacher induction program. Title 3 is our funding for English language learners, in which we provide things like our platform for elevation, some of our EL specialist coaching, Camp N, slides translation. And finally, Title 4, I'm bringing back, and this has kind of been the most significant change for Title 4 training. Title 4 in the past was used for Naviance to fund the high school program that was used for kind of the career platform, how we were submitting transcripts to colleges. And since we have moved on to the CCGI platform, which is a free resource from the California Department of Education, we looked and talked about the other needs. Title IV is kind of a broad title category, and one of the components of Title IV is health and well-being. And to that effect, we are using Title IV this year for kind of the funding of the middle school sports programs in terms of the stipend for our middle school athletic directors, supporting the MCAT, the middle school league with Michelle Smith. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not sure of the official name. Sorry, Mike. Michelle's League, yes, we are to work in that extent. So that's the most significant change that we've addressed in the funding with the Local Control Accountability Plan Federal Addendum. Thank you. And with that, I am requesting that the board approve the federal addendum as presented. And I'll take any questions as well.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, may I please have a motion to approve the 2026-2027 Local Control Accountability Plan Federal Addendum? Thank you, Trustee Jacobson. May I please have a second? Thank you, trustee Pickens. All those in favor? 7-0. Oh, 6-0. 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Approval of the 2026-2027 proposed NUSD general fund budget.
Good evening, trustees. Yes, I'm bringing to you the 2026-2027 proposed general fund budget. There are no changes from what we presented 2 weeks ago. We had, of course, hoped that there were going to be some changes to the positive, but it didn't turn out that way. And so what I'm bringing tonight is the exact same budget. One thing to point out, though, on page 5 of your narrative, it's the combined general fund budget page. It says at the top 2025-26 second interim, 2025-2026 third interim. That is a typo. It should say 2025-2026 third interim and then 26-27 adopted budget. So that is, we will make that correction and upload it to Gamut tomorrow morning, and that will be the final one that goes on to the website. Everything about the numbers is correct. It's just a typo of the header. So with that, I'd like to ask for your approval or any questions for the budget.
Trustee Alexander.
I just have a question looking at this page now with that. There are notes signaled in the cells for the change. Do you want those in when you upload it, or would you remove those notes?
No, those will be in there as well. So that's the change. Basically, what we're presenting there is that in the first column is that is the actuals from this year. And then the second column will be the budget for next year. So what is the change from one year to the next?
No, I'm sorry, I understand that.
Okay.
But in the tables, there are the little triangles in the corners that designate that there's a comment in the Excel sheet or the document that was used in the table. And I'm just asking from a formatting, or is that something that's accessible to people reading this, or is this only accessible?
Oh, that's background. Yeah, that's background.
Yeah, that's okay. I just happened to notice it because you pointed out
Yeah,
that page.
it's not a live document.
That's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, may I please have a motion to approve the 2026-2027 proposed NUSD general fund budget? Thank you, trustee Alexander. Second by trustee Mack. Thank you. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay. Moving on to approval of resolution number 30, 2025-2026 Novato Unified School District budget reduction and unrestricted fund balance stabilization for 2026-2027.
Yes, on the back of the inability to pass Measure G this go round, we do need to make some significant reductions if we aren't able to produce more revenues, right? We tried the revenue line. It didn't work this first shot, and we're going to have to reduce to make this budget balance. The budget that was just passed a second ago shows a $12 million hole 2 years from now. That's because we have about a $9 million deficit next year and an $8 million deficit the year after that. So that is a systemic deficit. We need to address it. So what we're proposing here is a resolution that does not detail what the cuts will be, because of course those cuts will need to come with conversation. The same thing that we did this year. Those cuts will need to come with conversation, working with the affected programs, sites, district officials, whatnot, that this is going to be touching. So that's going to take some work, but we need to identify what the goal is. So that goal is $6.5 million in ongoing cuts. So basically a permanent cut that would reduce $6.5 million from the expenditures. We would pause all hiring of vacant non-essential staffing positions. We would conduct a cost-benefit analysis of all of our specialized programs to determine financial viability of those said programs. We are going to continue to budget at 95% ADA and project a 30 student enrollment growth, which is a smaller enrollment growth than we had before. That gives us the a better window of play to make sure that we're not, undercutting ourselves. We need to identify at least $1.5 million in one-time savings. That is in case any of the contingencies are wrong. This gives us, again, another place where $6.5 million doesn't become 7.5 or 8 million, right? And then we want to research the possibility and viability of increasing the parcel tax. So in other words, there's been conversation of, will the district go out? Will the district not go out for another parcel tax? We are going to continue to look in that space and see what went right, what went wrong with this parcel tax. And if there's going to be another one, then we would like to, go with it full force and not just because, right? So we'll continue to research that. This resolution is, of course, non-binding by means of, if you vote on this today, that doesn't mean that tomorrow all of a sudden I have to identify $6.5 million worth of layoffs and then lay those people. That's not how this is going to work. But we will bring back the budget for a 45-day revise that does include $6.5 million in ongoing reductions, $1.5 million one time, so on and so forth, so that we have a budget that is break even. With that, I'll take any questions and ask for approval of this resolution.
Trustee Pickus?
Thank you. And I just want to say and repeat something that I and a couple others voiced at our last meeting when we were looking at these numbers, and that when we are talking about this, the sort of growing deficit that we have as a district, that I know that there is some conversation about presenting kind of a bigger picture on why this deficit exists. And I want to reiterate that we all have seen a lot of work that your department has done to really be fiscally responsible. And so when people who haven't been following that work say, what are you doing? Why do you have this deficit? There are other factors that are out of our control. And so I just wanted to put that on the record for anyone who might be listening here. And I know that, or hope that there are plans to come back to present to the public sort of a wider view on what's happening that is outside of our control that is leading to this deficit, just to counter that narrative that, like, people running the finances don't know what they're doing. I have a lot of faith in what's happening here, and I think what we do next is it's going to be an interesting conversation for us, but I just wanted to reiterate that we should come back and highlight those pieces for our community so that they understand really what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Trustee Gasson?
Yeah, no, this is hard. Obviously, it's a huge thing, and I think what's hardest is it's none of us sitting here want to have these conversations because we care about our community, our kids, our teachers, our staff, and at the end of the day, it's going to affect those things and what we're able to do. Having said that, I also want to just point out that this is even being conservative in some ways because this is where we're at now. So not having the additional parcel tax, but also with everything being flat. We obviously, as is everyone else, having a really hard time with rising costs. And so there's just even the day-to-day costs of running a business as big as this with almost 750 employees and how many school sites and, everyone's gas, electricity, all of those that we're not immune from as well. And so I don't want to make it even more depressing, but for me, I'm just like, it would be lovely. It's painful to have to make this many cuts, and this isn't even factoring in any type of increase or adjustment. We've got all these rising in expenses just by the nature of existing too. So I'm looking forward, though, to having conversations and strategizing and kind of coming up with maybe some creative thinking. And I still, even though I don't feel like it's an immediate solution, I do still believe that we have to use the voices at the state level and figure out places that maybe won't cost the state money, but will save us dollars. And every little bit that we can do in that way that can at least start moving the needle to better funding for our school districts across the state, not just here, I think is important. And I'll just close and say that we are not the only district having it. I feel like we're actually doing better than a lot of districts that are even close by in terms of, our ability to stay afloat for where we are right now. I don't want it to get worse, but it's not a Novato problem. It's a statewide California problem.
And then just add on what you're saying too, at the state level, I think there might be some sort of a correlation to the money that the state is holding back from school districts in general, and how that amount, our share of that amount, might go a heck of a long way toward addressing our issues. So to the extent that anybody's interested in talking to the state, bring that up. Why are they holding out their Prop 90 and Prop 92 money that we're supposed to get? Oh, Prop 98, sorry. 90. Get my numbers mixed up. Anyway, it's been a long night. Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen some interesting press on that. A lot of school districts are calling that a cut. So, like, maybe using that language is kind of what we need to do, and not say that they're holding it back, but that they're cutting the Prop 98 guarantee.
They didn't give it to us.
Yeah.
It's a cut. Until they give it to us, it doesn't exist. It's a cut. Sorry. I back you up.
Any last minute thoughts, comments, or questions? Okay. I agree with Diane. This is hard. No one wants to, go through budget cuts, but here we are. So I really appreciate everything that you and your team are doing to educate the community, but also trying to bring solutions. This is a roll call vote. Trustee Alexander?
Aye.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. May I please have a motion to approve resolution number 30, Novato Unified School District budget reduction and unrestricted fund balance stabilization for 2026-2027. Thank you, Trustee Alexander. Second. Thank you, Trustee Gasson. This is a roll call. Trustee Alexander?
Aye.
Trustee Butler?
Aye.
Trustee Gasson?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
Trustee Lametta? Aye. Trustee Mack?
Aye.
Trustee Pecos?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next, we have approval of resolution number 31, 2025-2026, determining the use of education protection account, EPA funds for NUSD.
Yes, and this is usually the last resolution for the school year, which is to dictate how we're going to use the EPA funds. The EPA funds are part of Proposition 55, well, they're amended part of Proposition 55 that is going to be on the ballot in November. So just FYI, if you don't want to see LCFF districts take a multi-million-dollar hit, then Prop 55 is something, it's going to have a new proposition, but the one that is related to Prop 55 and the Education Protection Act, the EPA, something that we should all be looking at. Basically what happens is millions of dollars come into the district as part of our LCFF. This is not additional dollars. It is a carve out of LCFF. So it's not additional. We just have to say how we're spending that money. This year it was $6,555,964. That is the carve out for the EPA for NUSD. So again, if Prop 55 were to disappear, it does have a sunset date. If that were to disappear, we would lose $6.5 million. So that $6.5 million, how is NUSD going to spend that money? The same way we always have. It's on teacher salaries and benefits. So we are putting it through for teacher salaries and benefits again this year.
Questions or comments? Okay, may I please have a motion to approve resolution number 31? Thank you, Trustee Mack. Second, Trustee Jacobson. Okay, this is a roll call. Trustee Alexander.
Aye.
Trustee Butler.
Aye.
Trustee Gasson.
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson.
Aye.
Trustee Lametta, aye. Trustee Mack,
Aye.
Trustee Pecos.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is our last meeting of the school year. So I hope that everyone has a safe summer. Enjoy time with your families. Hopefully we'll be in touch, but I will see everyone in August. And I believe this is Fran's last meeting. So happy retirement. Thank you so much for all these years that you have contributed to our community as a parent, as an employee. And I wish you the best in the next chapter. Thank you.
And as well, Jeff Wallace, thank you for all your time, not only as here, but also all your time on campus and my daughter's soccer coach.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff, and good luck. And we will miss you, but you'll be down the road, so we know where to find you in case we need something. Okay. Thank you. I will adjourn tonight's meeting.